Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops in Detroit Bad Boys. And our guy, Blake, his little man came down with a stomach bug, so we're kind of giving him the podcast off here to let him run point on that. Hopefully, the little guy starts feeling better soon. But, and I promise we didn't just throw this together the last minute. It just couldn't have worked out any better because we planned this out 2 weeks in advance. We got our guy, Laz Jackson, to fill in for Blake today. He was joining us anyway, so now it's just, you're the co-host. How's it feel?
It feels like home. It feels like I'm back where I belong. It feels like I'm back where I'm supposed to be. But no, thanks for having me, Wes. Shout out to Blake's little man. I know how rough that goes, right? And so it's like, I hope he's doing well. And I know Blake was looking forward to this conversation. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be on the podcast, and I'm excited to chop it up with you.
Yeah, me too. The only thing I can relate to with this is my one of my two dogs was throwing up a little bit today. That's, it's not the same. You just kind of wipe it off the floor and you're like, all right, buddy, like drink some water, you'll be okay. And that's about it.
You would be surprised how much, like, after a while, it is kind of like, all right, man, like here's the kids' Tylenol. Like we're gonna drink some water and like you're just gonna lie down for a long time. Like, sorry, dude. Like, he's like, and the kid's like, what is happening? Like, this is terrible. It's like, yeah, it is. Like, it's going to be like that. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, it's just, it's not that much different how you've described that. It's not much different than getting the stomach bug as an adult. It's like, you just got to pray at that point. Yeah. It's never fun.
Pretty much.
Well, all right. We got a lot of questions here. So I wanted to jump in with a couple of non-submitted questions because you were actually at Summer League this year for the first 2 games, right? Mm-hmm. So this was your first time?
Yeah, this is my first summer in Vegas. I had a wonderful time, had a great time. They won both the games I went to, so that made things better as well. I have heard that the experience has gotten like more expensive and like a little bit less fan friendly, but like I don't know, man. I had a really great time. The small gym is real small. So like you're right up next to people. I don't know if I've said this on a podcast yet. So actually, a story time. So the game before the Knicks game was Boston-Memphis, and G.G. Jackson was like not playing very well. He shot like 2 air balls, and I was talking to the people that I was sitting next to because like I didn't know anybody, right? I didn't come with anybody. I was just like talking to people. And I was telling them, like, man, like, I expected so much more from G.G. Jackson, right? Like, he's really talented. I think this is his 3rd year. Like, he should be out there, like, dominating. And this dude behind me is like, they're just not giving him the ball. Like, he needs, like, he's good. Like, it was just, like, really protecting, like, G.G. Jackson. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, okay, whatever, sure. And then come to find out, that was G.G. Jackson's dad.
No.
Just, like, sitting behind me. It's like he comes up to him after the game and like they hug and I was like, oh, oops.
So what are you gonna do?
But that's Vegas Summer League, right? You never know like who else is gonna be there, and like the entire NBA culture and like supporting everyone is there. So you don't know who you're gonna run to. So that was my brush with fame, I guess, or infamy in Vegas.
Well, I don't know. It is so cool, the mix of people that are all down there. Cause like, I don't know where else in an NBA calendar are you going to find, like, you got family of players, you got executives, you got scouts, you got regular fans, you got people like us doing podcast stuff. You got the media everywhere. Like it really is just kind of, it seems like everyone's coming into the same place, which when they had different summer leagues and, RIP to the Orlando Summer League. I actually got a kick out of it when it used to be fun watching that just in the practice gym, but it wasn't the same with that. So it does seem like kind of a level up there for the NBA.
Yeah. I'm not like, I hope they don't corporatize it even further, right? Because at that point you're starting to separate all the pieces that come into this. And what makes it fun is that you get that crossover, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I will say the one thing that I think the Summer League games do better than regular NBA games, there's no music in the background while the teams are playing. Like, can we bring that back, please? Just as a side rant, it's so annoying to just be watching the broadcast and hear, even when they pump in the like fake stomp, clap stuff, like, just stop. Just give me the crowd noise. Otherwise, I want to hear the court. I don't need it. And I love that for Summer League. They don't do it. They don't even bother. This is just basketball. It's the best.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the season, when like we were still getting the Jared Goff chants, it was like I used to pray for the stomp stop clap because it would drown out the Jared Goff chants, which I like just did not want at my basketball games. But yeah, no, absolutely. Less production is good. Let the game speak for itself, which it can do.
Yeah, it can. Basketball's plenty entertaining. Why do we need music to like, it's like when you're watching a TV show, I don't want to have my phone out looking at my phone. I'm watching the show. Like, you don't have to put in other audio so that I can be entertained.
That's an age gap thing. We're old now, Wes. Everybody's second screening. Everybody's got their TikTok and the TV show at the same time. And we lost that battle. It is what it is.
Well, I'm going to keep fighting the good fight on that one because I think that's nuts. How are you even watching the show? It's like, you'd be judging me. Anyone who does this would judge me very harshly for reading a book and watching TV at the same time. It's no different. It's the same thing. You're not putting full attention to either. So just pick one. It's not, I'm probably sounding like a 40-year-old man. Yeah. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. You know what? You just got to embrace it. Okay. So I wanted to ask you a couple things just about Summer League in general, because I was not there and you were. So was there anything just kind of surprising about the experience that you didn't expect going in?
So the first thing I'll say is that one of the first things I noticed, when all the Pistons stepped onto the court, was Bobby Klintman was way taller and thicker than I expected. He looked really physically imposing in a way that I wasn't fully prepared for. He didn't play up to that level, and that was a little disappointing. But I definitely understand seeing these guys up close. You understand why teams give some of these guys a little bit more chances. You're like, yeah, man, that if we can ever turn the keys in this guy's brain to make it figure out, we could really have something. And it was just really impressive. He was really impressive physically. Being as close as I was to the court, you did get to hear more of the sounds of the game, which was good. Dennis Jenkins talks a lot of mess all the time.
Love it.
So that was awesome as just a spectator. And then just having the I don't want to say the big club, but having the starters there, having all the young guys there was also it was a really cool moment. The entire team comes out along the baseline. It's basically the Knicks fans are behind the Knicks bench and the Pistons fans are behind the Pistons bench. And so the entire Pistons bench starts going crazy because Cade comes out and Ivy comes out and Duran comes out, everybody comes out. It's that was a really cool moment. And it's the small gym is a small gym. It's it's not much bigger than a high school gym. And so it's if you yell something at Cade, he heard it, right? And so it was just a really cool, very intimate basketball experience. And then it also helped that they were way, way better than the Knicks, who were just really overmatched. And Ron played out of his mind. It's that was awesome to see.
So follow-up question, since you mentioned the Bobby Klintman being a little bit bigger than you expected. It's the offseason, so this is the time to ask this sort of question. But anyone else seem noticeably they put on some strength or some muscle? I mean, it seemed maybe Ron a little bit from the broadcast, but that's kind of hard to tell.
It was kind of hard to tell. It's and part of it may just be I know what Ron should look like in my head.
Yeah.
Because Bobby plays less, I had less of an idea of what I thought he should look like, and so maybe that was a big part of it. But no, I mean, Ron looked really good. Not too big, which is what I was hoping for. Again, I think he's 20, 21, and so you don't want to see him put on 20 pounds of muscle in a single off season, because then you'll start to mess with things athletically. But yeah, he was just really impressive from a skill position, or from a skill development standpoint. Handle looked a lot better. Shot looked a lot more comfortable. And so it was really good to see. It was really good to see out of Ron in Vegas.
Yeah, it really was. He didn't look like he belonged out there. I was surprised he got the third game that he did. He just looked so solid, and in a bunch of different ways too. I think, was it the second game where it seemed like he kind of wasn't looking to score so much in the first half, and then just lit him up in the third quarter because he could?
Yeah. Well,
like
he went off big in the third quarter of the Knicks game. That was the first game. But the second game against Houston, that was a bit more of a two-way performance. There was one like he seemed to be a little bit more engaged on the boards, a little bit more engaged defensively. That was the game they played the Bickerstaff at center, and he's a little undersized. And so you could tell it was like more of an effort of like, hey, gang rebound, because we're not going to be able to secure the defensive glass as much when this guy's out there. There's one moment where he turned the corner on some poor soul on Houston, and then like couldn't believe how open he was and blew the layup. And it was funny to see like live, because like in the broadcast, right, they just like get the rebound, kick the ball up the floor, and you just keep it moving. But like live, he's just like he's looking at his hands, he's like looking at the sky, he's like like what happened? It's like, and because I could see, I had a really good angle. It's like I saw exactly what he saw. It's like, yeah, man, it just happens. So yeah, just little things like that, I think were the main difference. It's a really, really fun experience. Highly recommend anybody who's like a big fan of basketball, like come on down to Vegas for a couple days, check it out. Don't stay too long. That's the thing everybody says. It's like I stayed 5 days, 6 days, and that was enough. That was definitely enough. I was out.
All right. So speaking of the little things, then you kind of mentioned Dennis Jenkins talking a lot of crap, right? Was there any like leader type communicating that kind of maybe surprised you, or someone that really stood out in that way, like defensive communication? They were getting their guys into their spot, because that's something that like I would have loved to have been able to hear, and you really can't with the broadcast.
Not so much that it was like noticeable. Actually, you know who was really good? Boston. Boston was really vocal on the floor in the game that I watched beforehand. But the coaching thing I did pick up on was that so Vitaly Popotenko, I hope I'm saying that right. He was the head coach.
Your guess is better than mine.
He was the head coach for the summer league team, and I thought he did a really good job of getting people organized and in position to succeed, especially on offense. You could see him and Dennis like talking all the time. You could see him and what was the guy's name? Double Z, the 5'9" point guard.
Ziegler.
Zakai
Ziegler. Yeah.
Yeah, Zakai Ziegler. There we go. You could see him talking all the time with the point guards. And so it's like you could tell how much of an emphasis they were putting on like making sure the offense was like flowing relatively smoothly, which is good because, like, you know, classically summer league, it can turn into an ISO fest very quickly. And so it's good to see that we got a lot less of that from this Pistons team.
All right, I had one more. Let's just do it. This doesn't even have to be. It certainly does not have to be Pistons specific.
Sure.
Truthfully, if you want to take this in a different direction, it doesn't even have to be basketball related. But like, what is the most impressive thing you saw while you were down there in Vegas?
So I'm a big craps player. I like to play craps. Okay. This guy walks up to the table in a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander jersey and rolls for like 30 minutes straight. Like the entire table's going nuts. Everybody's making money. Like his boys are just like silently like standing behind him, like trying not to mess up like his mojo. People are like the thing that's nice about like a hot craps table is that like other people that are going like just going around the casino like hear the exclamations of joy from like the entire table, and it's like 30 people are celebrating. It's like, oh, what's it like? Well, what's going on over there? Like that seems cool, in a way that like I don't know. Other forms of gambling are a little bit more solitary, a little bit more isolationist, but like a craps table is a little bit more social, and that's part of the reason why I like it so much. But yeah, dude in OKC jersey made me like maybe like $800 in like 40 minutes. And it's like, thanks, man. Like, you know, this is great. Like, this is part of what makes the Vegas experience. I mean, don't worry, they got it back, right? But still, yeah, that was really impressive. If I could do that, like I would, but I can't. So
I have no idea how to play craps. So I'm just going to assume that this is the most impressive, like most difficult possible thing ever to really elevate the story in my mind, Laz.
Like it's the element of difficulty and like luck, right?
No, it's all skill. He had it that day, and that it'll go on. They'll write legends about that. That's how I'm just going to think about it now. All right. let's talk some Pistons stuff. So it's still the offseason. There's going to be a little bit of overlap with what Blake and I have been talking about the past few weeks, but hey, that's what it is. It's the beginning of August. We're in the dog days. So let's just open up with this one. Kind of an interesting one here from Stu It Up in the DBB comments. And of course, guys, if you're tuning in live, you can ask a question in the live chat. We'll get to those as well. But so he says, how helpful is Josh Giddey and Jonathan Kuminga's contract disputes for the Pistons regarding Ivy and Jalen Duren? Should we be hoping that it works out poorly for those players for next year so the Pistons can maybe get a better deal?
Yeah, I don't love the wording. I don't know if I should be like rooting for it to work out poorly for the players. But yes, I do.
It helps
think
if
that
you think of poorly as like millions of dollars still, and then it's like, okay,
that's fair. I don't know. I hate to side with not labor in negotiations, but yeah, absolutely. It just this and the Cam Thomas as well just goes to show you how restricted free agents are just like really getting squeezed under the new CBA, and B, how team roster and how roster construction and team building is different under the new CBA. I was reading Matt Moore, who writes under HP Basketball for the Action Network. He has a nice Substack, and he was saying how like it looks like the new landscape of rosters is like you have you underpay the max guys, right? Like Shea's making like 60-70 mil a year, I think, on that extension, and it's still probably like relatively underpaid, same as Jokic. Luka signed for, I think, was it like 60, and like because he switched teams, it wasn't even as much as he could have been paid, right? We just saw the De'Aaron Fox extension for 60. That was like eyebrow raising because it's De'Aaron Fox and not like a guy who was in MVP conversations like Luka or a guy who won MVP like Shea. But either way, it's like you pay that guy because that's your main guy, and then you have a second guy, you pay that guy as well, and then because those two guys are taking up maybe like 65 to 60% of the cap, you squeeze everywhere else because you can go over the cap, but every team is scared to death of the aprons. And so it was interesting to think about because it does really impact how rosters are built. Like Kuminga is in a really tough situation because not only does like he want to get paid, the Warriors want him to get paid, but they want him to get paid so they can trade him for more stuff. And that's like you got the weird base year compensation rules and everything going into that. But whoever acquires him is like, is his new team actually wanting to give him like a contract in excess of $30 million a year? Like, I don't know if he's a $30 million a year player. I don't think he is, but like, I remember being 23 and I was never as talented as Jonathan Kuminga is. And so I can totally understand his position as why he should make money. Giddey, same situation. It's like, and that's even more of a like, hey, you traded for me, right? Like I'm a guy who you allegedly like wanted moving forward. It's like you should pay me accordingly. And Chicago not going anywhere anytime soon doesn't have much of an argument for just like not paying him. It's like you're not making the playoffs, or you're not going to be a top 6 seed anyway. Like you're not making out of the first round anyway. Like why not just give me my money?
He was huge for them down the stretch too. Like, I mean, Kobe White got all the shine, rightfully so. He was incredible, but like Josh Giddey was putting up darn near Cade numbers.
Yeah, he puts up big numbers.
Like, yeah,
I don't know how much impact he has, but he puts up really big numbers. But so you'll see like guys continue in restricted free agency to get squeezed, and what you want to see is like, is it more of a Kuminga situation where it becomes really acrimonious between the team and the player, or is it more of a Giddey situation where it's just kind of quiet and everyone's expecting that like eventually like they'll reach some sort of conclusion? Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey, for their part, both like I haven't heard any like contract noise on social media. You don't see any like, eyeball emojis or anything from Instagram from either one of those guys, which makes me think that like everybody's kind of on the same page. And you might end up in a situation where it's like, hey, if you can find another team like willing to give you $30 million a year, like go out and do that. We'll match it because we want you here. We want you on this team. But if you don't find that contract, like we'd love to talk to you about something lower. And you got to let the guys like explore the studio space and like find their opportunities where they can get them. And so that might just be where it ends up. So to answer the question, like you should absolutely be hoping that neither Kuminga or Giddey like end up in the $30 million a year range, because that will make, as a point of comparison, that will make paying like both of our guys a lot more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really curious to see what you mentioned like the squeezed number, right? Everyone else is getting squeezed. I'm really curious to see what the squeezed contract value is for a guy like Giddey, Kuminga and Cam Thomas. Cause like, how much are we trying to wring out in terms of value of that deal? Is it going to be low 20s, high teens? Like where does that actually shake out? And it was interesting. You brought up Cam Thomas. I actually wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on the Cam Thomas situation regarding Jaden Ivey, because as much hate as a guy like Cam Thomas gets, they're roughly similar players. Like these are guards that are about the same height. They can do a little bit of secondary ball handling. Cam Thomas is a better scorer. Jaden Ivey is a little bit better of a playmaker, but these are both bad defenders, right? Like loosely speaking, these are score first two guards that are 6'4" and good enough shooters. So like, where does that end out? And is that maybe like almost a 1-to-1 here if you're looking for an Ivy extension number?
Yeah, I think the Cam Thomas situation is going to get darker. It would not surprise me if like he takes the qualifying offer, simply because like we talked a little bit about with Giddey, where it's like, hey, you traded for me and you're not going anywhere, like you should pay me. Like Brooklyn is actively like going nowhere and trying to go down, and it makes even less sense for them to have like large contracts on their books. And anywhere they would want to trade Cam Thomas to for value, like again, like doesn't want to acquire a $30 million a year player. And so you might see Cam Thomas take the qualifying offer, go into unrestricted free agency, and just see what the market will bear for, again, like the slightly undersized two guards who can't run an offense, right? That's the way I've been thinking about it. And those guys are getting squeezed a little bit. I talked about this with Kuka Hill on the Locked On Pistons pod, but like you saw, like Malik Monk apparently is like on the way out in Sacramento. Jalen Green got paid, right? Got in excess of $30 million a year. But again, Houston specifically structured that contract to be trade ballast, like for some future superstar. And it ended up being Kevin Durant. But I would be very surprised if Jalen Green makes $30 million a year, like on his next deal. Which is again like up in like 2 years now, because that's the other thing. Contract lengths are getting shorter. I don't think like Trajan gave Cade 5 years, but like I don't think he's given anybody else like more than 3. Come to think about it, so yeah, it's like that's the other thing we'll see is contract lengths are going to get probably a little bit shorter as teams look to be more variable in their roster construction. But yeah, Cam Thomas, I would be curious to see if he becomes an unrestricted free agent. I'd be curious to see what he makes on the open market. I'm definitely willing to bet that is something that the Pistons are monitoring, and Jaden Ivey's agent is monitoring, just to see what like a comparable player like gets in the open market. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. You should also be kind of rooting against Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas might fight you for it, but you should be.
He might. If he sees it on Twitter, he might call that out. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting how this is all playing out. I mean, at least early on returns with the new CBA, because like the Pistons are going to have 3 guys here kind of coming up for extensions that like historically, these are not archetypes of players that get big bucks, and specifically now are really not seeming to be guys that are getting big butts. Like you've got Ivy is you meant the undersized shooting guard who can't run the offense, not a plus defender. Jalen Duren is not a stretch 5 and not a plus defender. Asar Thompson is amazing on defense, but anything you get from him on offense is kind of gravy. It's not his selling point. Defense first guys don't usually get massive contracts. So yeah, like this might actually be kind of working out well for Detroit for keeping those 3 guys around. Is that fair to say?
It depends on, again, like whether or not one of those guys decides to take you to the limit, take you to unrestricted free agency, and exit out that way. The other thing I will say, like, you do have to keep the locker room, right? You do have to do like some amount of cohesion, like building. I finished Breaks of the Game, the book about the Portland Trailblazers the year after they won the championship. So it was like after Bill Walton left. They still had some like good players. And they still had a really good coach, but it was all about like basically like the behind the scenes of what happens to a team. And it's really interesting, right? Like so many of these guys watch how much other people make, and it impacts them and it impacts their game. And it's teammates, it's opponents. It impacts like who gets traded, and like it impacts like guys playing more selfishly, or guys like not being as willing to take coaching because they feel like they don't have their best interests in heart when it comes to contracts. So you do want to avoid like some of that, right? And that is the argument for just paying guys. So you don't want to squeeze too hard, I think. And you also don't want to, I don't know, like say you're a genius and it's like, hey, look, I squeezed our guys. I'm the best roster management person in the world, and just like piss guys off for no reason, right? Like why do that?
There's got to be a middle ground, right? You got to, because you can't just overpay everybody, but then at the same time, like you're saying, it makes sense that you'd kill the locker room if you're really, really taking it to some of these guys in the negotiations. Interesting to follow. I mean, we'll see how the next couple of years go, right? Let's look more short term here. This is from Shags. Do you think the Pistons are waiting to see if the Beasley situation gets resolved before they fill that 14th roster spot?
So Shags, I kind of do.
Yeah.
The Duncan Robinson contract is very suspiciously assembled. There's a lot of non-guaranteed money after this year. You can basically like get out of it for nothing. And it does not make much sense to hold 2 open roster spots right now. There's like, I could understand if you thought you were going to like swing a big trade, or if you wanted to help another team like facilitate a big trade, but like we're waiting on the Kuminga trade, but like that's kind of it. And I haven't heard the Pistons are involved in that in any way, shape, or form. So 2 roster spots is a little suspicious. Yes. So I do think that Beasley was so good for them last year. We got immediate reporting that like they had the full mid-level like on the table for him, ready to sign before everything came out. And so you have to imagine that like, the room exception or like some small short-term deal is on the table for Malik Beasley to return to the Pistons if and when it comes that like he's no longer federal investigation, right? Which like I hope happens. Malik was a really good vet for the team last year, and he played really well. I don't know if it was reasonable to expect him to have a Klay Thompson season like he did last year, but he would be valuable. He would be a welcome addition if he were able to like extricate himself from the situation. So yeah, I do kind of think they're holding open a roster spot for him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you, because I think at this point, like if he gets cleared, he's kind of the best, one of the best players still remaining at this point. Absolutely. And like with everyone's cap space kind of spent up, the Pistons, they could still give him, I think, up to his cap hold, right, or something around those lines, just as because they hold his rights still.
Yeah,
they haven't renounced anything, so I think they could theoretically still give him the most out of just about anybody else that's maybe in the Malik Beasley market at this point. The only question I'd have is like, how does that rotation shake out? That's a lot of guards that would realistically need minutes.
Yeah. They would be smaller than I think you'd like. Maybe that might mean a minimization of or a cannibalization of role, right? Like all of a sudden, like I don't know if you're are you playing bench lineups with Duncan Robinson and Malik Beasley on the floor at the same time? And if so, like is Jaden Ivey the backup point guard? So you're playing all three of those guys at the same time. And if that's the case, like how are you staying afloat defensively with those lineups? No, no shade to any of those guys, but I think that you definitely be hoping to outscore people with lineups like that. And then like in that case, like where does Karis LeVert like get minutes? Is it just like a full like shift change thing? So, but at the same time, it's injury insurance, right? Duncan Robinson is a little older than you think, not like old yet, but a little older than you think. LeVert has dealt with like a variety of stuff over the course of his career. Like he's missed time. And so like it'd be good backup. It'd be good insurance to have like just another guy on the roster who you trust, who you trust to play like 25, 28, 30 minutes a night in case you need it. So like I'm not against like holding out for Malik Beasley, but it like when everyone gets healthy, it does make things a little weird.
Yeah, no, I'm to be clear, not against it at all. At this point, that's kind of like probably the most bang for your buck if it could actually play out that way, right? Like you just had Boston bring in Chris Boucher today, and like good get for them, but Beasley's a better player. Once you get late into free agency like this, it's usually more Chris Boucher's than Malik Beasley's. So it'd be kind of a coup to pull that off.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, right, it's Chris Boucher and a vet minimum, right?
Yeah.
And so the Pistons, as have the ability to give more than the vet minimum, makes them appealing to like Malik in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even role notwithstanding at that point, maybe you just want to maximize your bang for your buck. Although, all things considered, like he could easily theoretically, he could beat out in camp either Karis LeVert or Duncan Robinson for those spots if JB really wants to go 9-man instead of 10 there. Like I wouldn't rule that out at all.
Yeah.
All right, let's slide over to this one. This is about Dennis Jenkins. So Dennis Jenkins, it was reported earlier in the week, actually late last week, got his 2-way contract renewed, which actually made me laugh at the time because I just assumed that had already happened. And then Keith Smith, their guy, reported on it. I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was up in the air. But okay, yeah, good. But so Dennis got his 2-way contract. What did you think of his summer league performance, and is he a viable NBA point guard? This is Jayod.
So Jayod, I really liked the way he performed in summer league. I liked I talked about him already, like talking a lot of mess, but I also liked the aggression with which he played on both ends. I liked the fact that he showed off the 3-point range in particular. That was something that he wasn't great at last year in the G League. So it's encouraging to see him develop as a shooter. He's a little bit bigger than you'd expect. I think he's like a solid like 6'4". And so you'd see guys bounce off of him, or like he was noticeably bigger than Reed Shepherd in their matchup, which played a role in how that matchup went. And he kind of went toe to toe with Reed Shepherd, which I don't know who that says more about in terms of like viability as an NBA player. And so afterwards, I was kind of caught up and was like, yeah, like maybe Marcus Sasser has something to worry about as the third point guard. But the question of like whether or not he's a viable point guard is tougher, I think. It may just be a case of Dennis is what I like to call like a quadruple A NBA player. Like maybe he's a little bit too good to be in the G League consistently, but perhaps not good enough to play a full-time backup role. But I'd be giving him the chance to win a spot in camp and elevate himself and get a full contract. I like Marcus Sasser. Marcus Sasser has some really good attributes, and I think he like, again, as insurance, like he's a really good scorer, and he was advertised as a pretty good defender. We haven't seen as much of that as at the NBA level, but there's definitely a case to be made that like Marcus Sasser is like a backup point guard somewhere. So if that's the case, like maybe you find another home for Marcus Sasser, clean up the books a little bit, and elevate Dennis Jenkins. Like I can see that like playing out. Do I think that happens? Like, no, I don't think that happens. There's usually a lot of like inertia prevents that from happening. Like Danis would have to play so much better, I think, than Sasser in training camp to make that a feasible like prospect. But like that doesn't mean I don't like Janis. I don't think he's a possible like NBA player. I do. It's just probably not at like at a super high level, but like really
Yeah.
good depth to have. Well, I don't know what
Well,
do you think of Wes, or what do you think of Danis in his summer league performance?
well, I thought my summer league performance was a little underwhelming, but Dennis Jenkins was really really good. I'm in the exact same boat as you are. I think like you want to give him the runway to prove what we're saying here is incorrect and that
Mhm.
he's not that quadruple A type player where he's too good for the G League, but not really a regular rotation guy in the NBA. What I will say is like I think he's right now the type of player where if he were your third point guard on the roster, you'd feel pretty okay with that. Like he's not going to play, but if he needs a week, right? You need to get him in for a week as an
Yeah,
injury fill in. Like
yeah,
it's not going to take down the ship. He'll be
yeah,
sufficient, and that's really like you said, that's really really good depth to have. He's still a young guy. Like he could get above that, but at this point, I don't think I would want to expect that out of him. He was an undrafted player. He wasn't amazing to start the season in the G League last year. He really picked it up down the stretch, and that has continued on in the summer league. So if he keeps on that trajectory, like sure, maybe one day he's a really solid backup point guard. But like, as of right now, like that's a bit too far, I think. So
yeah,
viability is dependent on what role you're asking me about.
yeah. It'd be different, right? If it were like a Dwight Bikes, Jose Calderon
Yeah,
situation, right? Where you had like
right.
a guy who was like a little bit younger and like maybe had a little bit more potential versus a guy who was older and you didn't want to rely on for like more than a week at a time. But both Jenkins and Sasser are young enough and like talented
Yeah.
enough that you feel like fine with them in an insurance capacity. And so it makes that battle just like a little bit more tougher for Danis.
Yeah, agreed. Like if you bring up the ghost of Beno Udre, like yeah, okay, let's
Yeah,
hand it over to Dennis Jenkins and see what happens there. Otherwise, like I'm intrigued with Sasser. I'd turn to Karis LeVert as a backup point guard before turning to either of those guys at
yep,
this point, and that would assume Jaden Ivey gets injured because at this point the roster seems well set up for him to be the backup point guard. Right, it'd be splitting minutes, or not minutes, but ball handling reps a bit with Karis LeVert and bench lineups. And all that sounds pretty great to me. So if Dennis Jenkins, who you could make an argument of being an okay third point guard on some rosters in the NBA right now, if he's your two-way guy, your fourth point guard, I think he's overqualified for that. And that's a wonderful thing to have.
yeah. The Danis Jenkins types are an argument for expansion, right?
Yeah.
It's like 30 more roster spots, and like maybe Danis Jenkins like finds a backup role somewhere and like gets to show what he can do. But otherwise, it's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of talent in the NBA.
Yeah, same boat. All right, so this is from our guest, our recent guest, Bobby Buckets. This was
Bobby,
just for you. All right, so for the 2014 MSU grad, he even dropped the date. That's fantastic. Or from a 2014 MSU grad. What East Lansing restaurants and bars did you frequent when you were there?
all right, Bobby's taking me back. So I graduated in 2012. So Wes, have you ever been to East Lansing? Do you know anything about East Lansing's
I've
like
I
geography?
have been. I've not been like socially,
Okay.
so I haven't gotten around to bars and restaurants all that much.
Oh man, that's all I did in East Lansing was get around socially.
Well, that's I'm a little jealous. Yeah.
So what that means is that I graduated before they put the Hopcat in. So the Hopcat sits where this other bar, which names escape me, like used to be. And like that was the thing I remember being mad about when like I came back a couple of years later, they had a Hopcat. It's like I would have gone there all the time, like had they had that before when I graduated. But I didn't go to Hopcat. I went to Crunchies a lot, and I went to the Peanut Barrel a lot. The Peanut Barrel was like the haunt of a lot of the like state news editorial team, and of which I was a part when I was at Michigan State University. And so like, yeah, we were at the Peanut Barrel all the time. That was one of my favorite places. But yeah, the Crunchies, Peanut Barrel. I'm ashamed to say I went to Rice Kitchen as much as I did. I lived on Grand River, so I didn't live like on campus. I was an Evans Scholar. So anyone who knows the Michigan State geography, you know where the Evans Scholar house is. Like it's right on Grand River, across the street from the 7-Eleven. And it's like that. So that's where I was. So that was my home base. So it was really easy for me to get up and down Grand River because I could just walk. Right. It wasn't like I lived on like the west side of campus, right? I have to like hoof it 20 minutes like just to get to Grand River. So that made things easier. So yeah, it was Crunchies and Peanut Barrel were like my two main spots. The B-Dubs, which is still there. I went there like occasionally, but like I don't know, man. You're in college. It's a little like
it's B-Dubs.
It's B-Dubs. Like there are other places to be. I went to in Dublin. I went to Dublin a couple times. I had a friend who has some Irish heritage and really liked going to Dublin to like acknowledge that heritage. Which like I'm not Irish, right? It's like I'm happy you're happy, but like they have a lot of Guinness here, and I don't really drink Guinness like that. So like, can we go someplace else?
So I had a lot of friends and a lot of family friends go to Michigan State. So I'm just going to throw out the only restaurant I can remember them telling me about on the off chance that you would know the name of it, because I sure do not. But it was some sort of breakfast place that had really funky cocktails and like really weird breakfast combinations that were also very good. And that's as specific as I can get. So you look confused. So I'm sure it wasn't there at the time.
Yeah, I don't know if that was there at the time. Yeah.
Well, and fair enough. He was also in the marching band, so like maybe it could be just different crowds. You know, Michigan State's huge.
The campus is like pretty large, like by like volume, right? So like there's a lot of places to go, and plus like the dorms had good food. Oh man, is that Acres? One of I think it was Acres had just put in like the new the new food area when I was like sophomore, and like that was my like I gained like 25 pounds just like eating all the time across the street.
Our where I went to undergrad, our cafeteria, it was a small school. Our cafeteria did not allow you to gain that freshman 15 because it was so poor quality. We had a word for what I'm insinuating here, that nothing was absorbed. Where our joke was, we actually looked this up. This was at a Sodexo place. So it was a Sodexo provider. There was a prison like a few towns over that also used Sodexo, paid for the higher quality food than what we had on campus. So yeah, that was my experience. Little Ohio Northern University, great school. I made a ton of friends there. It was a great time. I don't want to crap talk it too much, but the food was pretty awful.
Yeah, got to be a good alumni, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we the Mac attack was real for those that are familiar with Ohio Northern. On the really low chance that anyone would be familiar with Ohio Northern. So your food options sound a lot better than what I'm think of when I think of college food.
Yeah. I need to. So I went back to East Lansing for a game a couple of years ago. We did like a fantasy football draft and games.
Nice,
so we got like an Airbnb, all the guys. It's like that was a lot of fun. I haven't been back since then, and that was in like 2022. So like I need to. It was a lot harder when I lived in North Carolina. Now I live in Michigan. It's like I just need to get in the car and drive the 90 minutes and like head up there and get hit with the nostalgia wave again. So thanks, Bobby, for reminding me to do that.
All right, let's get back to the Pistons. We were just talking about Marcus Sasser. So here's a Marcus Sasser question from Dave, 10.9 miles north of LCA, which remains one of my favorite usernames. Should Marcus Sasser be looking over his shoulder because Colby Jones signed to a 2-way contract? And then these are his words, not mine. Says Colby Jones has an obvious advantage of being over 4 feet tall. So should Marcus Sasser be a little bit worried about Colby Jones?
I don't think so. I am not sure if Colby Jones can dribble. So that seems like a prerequisite to taking Marcus Sasser's position. But Colby Jones is taller than 4 feet. It does have nice size for a guard. In the like precious little time I dedicated to figuring and seeing like what Colby Jones was about seemed less like a quadruple A NBA player and more like a triple A NBA player, if I'm being perfectly honest. But had an intriguing blend of size and shooting ability. It was like, okay, that's the Trajan Langdon like special, right? If you give him the option, he's gonna find a guy who can shoot, who's got like good size, right? So yeah, I fully expect Colby Jones to be starting the 2 guard for the drive, and then or no, for the cruise. Oh my god, I keep doing that. But
R.I.P. to
I
the Grand
don't think
Rapids
Marcus
Drive.
Sasser has anything to fear from Colby Jones. No,
Yeah,
sorry, Dave.
I agree. He's interesting. Oddly enough, I don't know. I also watched Precious Little Colby Jones, so I'm no expert, but it seemed like a similar value proposition to the guy they drafted, like Chaz Lanier. Good positional size, good build, shooter, not much else, and you kind of see what's what from there. Like I do not hate the idea of in an offseason when you do not have a first round pick, just taking shots at multiple guys that are like this, that have good physical tools and seem like they can shoot, just to see if one of them kind of sticks. And then you've got a really high value rotation player for a very low contract amount. Like that just seems like good NBA business to me. But yeah, I'm with you that Sasser is a much better player than Colby Jones.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring up another one here from Shags. So, how many Pistons games do you think will be on national TV this year?
So Shags, this is funny because I got caught by the fake Shams Charania tweet that everybody else got caught by. So I thought the Pistons were playing on Christmas Day, and I was super excited about that. And that's not real, obviously. But I hate to do this. The fact that I thought it could have been real goes to show you that, like, yes, the Pistons probably will have an increased national media presence. You know, in the second half of last year, they moved the OKC game to ESPN, if I remember correctly, and like the game they played against Miami on ESPN like turned out to be like a really fun game to watch. Like, I don't know what the ratings were. Like, I don't care so much about the ratings. But the Pistons are good TV. They played the Knicks really well in the playoffs. You will get it appears that if you put them on TV, you will get a competitive game, which is really like all I think you can ask for from like a national TV game is like have everybody play and don't have anybody like doing load management and have like a pretty compelling game to watch. It's like which pretty much you can ask for. So I think more. They had what 4 or 5?
I did look it up. They were scheduled for 4. I couldn't
Okay.
find, because I know, like you mentioned, I believe you're right that OKC one got flexed over to ESPN. So like by the end of the year, I don't know what that regular season count was. It was more than 4.
Mm-hmm.
How high? Not sure, but conservatively, let's just use the number they started off with. They started last season with 4 pre-scheduled nationally televised games.
Yeah, I'd say you could pretty fairly double that, right? Go to 8. I put my hands together and pray for Pistons Knicks Christmas Day game in MSG. That where the Pistons won 2 playoff games. Like I think that would be fun. But yeah, I do think you'll see more national attention being put on Detroit. It's a great story. In addition to like the fact that Cade is a legitimate NBA superstar and a legitimate NBA tentpole, like you can have that. Like there are pluses and minuses to that. I think it was the Philly game that they played at home was an ESPN game. I went to that game. That game was the fan experience was lessened by the presence of like as much like TV production like stuff as there was. So as a guy who plans on going to 15 to 20 games next year, I'm going to the games. Like give me some like road games on ESPN.
Yeah. All right. How much of this growth do you think is just Cade proving what he proved last year? Because last offseason we were getting a decent amount of attention. Well, not we, but like Cade Cunningham was getting a
Yeah.
decent amount of attention, right, from national media. And it seems like it only continued during the season. They were putting out features on him. He makes the all-star team. Now you're seeing him up on lists of like the fourth best point guard in the NBA, stuff like that. Like, how much of that, let's say they do double it, or maybe they even get to like 10. Is that just like the Cade Cunningham factor, or is it something else?
It's a mixture of the Cade Cunningham factor and the fact that the team is good, right? You don't put sub 30 win teams on national TV a bunch of times. And the other thing I think, like, we've internalized this already, but like Cade was a number 1 overall pick. Like the NBA writ large, like, does have a vested interest in making sure that, like, if a number 1 pick plays for a good team, like that's something that they want to advertise and build up, so that like if you get a playoff matchup, like people know who this guy is and like want to tune in for it. And so like I do think you can attribute Cade's like ascension to part of like what makes the Pistons like more of a national TV draw. But the other thing again is like you'll get a good game, you won't get a blowout. You don't have to schedule like a Pistons Hornets game for ESPN to like knock out 2 bad teams at the same time. So yeah, if you put them on TV up against the Knicks, you put them on TV up against the Bucks, you put them on TV up against even like a Cleveland who's in division, like you still probably will get like a fairly entertaining game to watch. And that's really, again, like all you can ask for from a national TV perspective.
All right, last couple questions here, and then we will wrap it on up. But this is another one from Dave, 10.9 miles north of LCA. Says, would the Pistons be interested in either Amir Coffey or Devin Carter? If so, what do you think it would take to bring either of them here?
Is Devin Carter a free agent? Devin Carter's under contract, like by the Kings. Like I don't know. Devin Carter's going anywhere.
He got like thrown in with the Malik Monk conversation like a week ago. Like the Kings were just like, we need to get rid of either of these 2 players for reasons I do not understand. Year. Yes. And he like, once he got healthy, he was solid. He was all right for a mid first round pick rookie. So I don't know what's going on there.
So Dave, I don't know if Devin Carter is like available. That is another guard. So we've talked a little bit about the log jam. Talked a little bit about like, even like Dennis Jenkins has to fight for a spot. And so I don't know how much you like really want to bring another smaller size guard like into the room. But Devin Carter remains an interesting player, like a talented player. And so like, that'd be good. But Amir Coffey. So Amir Coffey is like 6'6", 6'7", shot really well from 3 last year. Like not above, like much more above his career average than normal to the point where like I don't know if that's progression or like a fluke, but he shot really well from 3 last year, can play the 3, which I think is important for this discussion, and also crucially is currently an unrestricted free agent. Like he just shook loose out of the Clippers. Like I don't know what happened there, but yes, like Amir Coffey would be like a perfectly fine value add to this Pistons team. I'm a little surprised he's still available. Like to me, like he was a pretty good NBA player with good size who like does good things. Like that's a worthy pickup for somebody. So we talked a little bit about Chris Boucher. Sometimes it's like guys fall through the cracks. Sometimes it's guys just like waiting to see what shakes out. But somebody will pick up Amir Coffey and like he'll play pretty well for them. And it could be Detroit.
Yeah, I would really like Amir Coffey right now. Like you said, free agent. Like definitely, if you want to bring him in as the 14th or 15th roster spot into a position where like he's probably not going to get minutes in the rotation. And this is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was pretty regularly in the rotation for the Clippers and was fairly solid, right? Like so it was similar to Chris Boucher is another good name to bring up because that was always my pushback with people who wanted to bring in Chris Boucher to Detroit. Like, yeah, good player would be a good value. He's going to expect to play, and I don't necessarily love that. I don't see the fit for him in the rotation. You could probably say the same thing about Amir Coffey, but as it continues to get later on and on to free agency, and the Pistons do not have an obvious hole at any position he would be playing, where you could not necessarily say the same thing about Chris Boucher at this point. Yeah, I don't see that as a problem. If you want to bring in a guy who's still relatively young, good, solid NBA rotation player as just injury depth, that seems like a luxury to me.
Yeah. And like he's a good NBA player. So many times during like these offseason stuff, you get guys like pet projects, right? You get like guys who like I saw in college, or guys who I saw in the G League, and like I think he can play, or he played really well in summer league. Like, should they pick him up? But like Amir Coffey, like actually played like rotation minutes for like a playoff team last year. Like that's a real NBA player. Like, yeah, like I wouldn't be opposed to it for sure.
And then what about Devin Carter? Like, if he were available, deadline maybe. Like, I don't really see the fit right now. But
yeah,
second
that
year
would
of the rookie contract. I don't know.
I think if you're bringing in Devin Carter, you're trading someone else somewhere. Maybe that's Marcus Sasser, who we've talked about. Maybe that's one of the guys you just brought in. Maybe that's Jaden Ivey. Like, probably not, but like, we talked a little bit about the contract. Like, maybe the contract terms aren't going super well. You do an extended trade with Jaden Ivey and you get Devin Carter. Like, I think people would be like, oh, people would probably be disappointed with that, but like it's okay. It's not great. It's okay. But yeah, if you bring in Devin Carter, like someone else, other things on the roster have to shift around to accommodate that in a way that makes me like wonder if the acquisition cost like this probably just end up being too much. So
yeah, that's why I say definitely not now. Like, it'd have to be at the deadline, because right now, like, what are you going to do? You just signed Karis LeVert. You can't trade him. Like, you just signed Duncan Robinson. You can't trade him. At the deadline, you could, and then you could open up a spot. Because, I mean, maybe I'm really biased. I was a huge fan of his coming out of the draft last year. So, like, I'd be all in on bringing in Devin Carter for very cheap if the Kings are just, for some reason, throwing their hands up and saying, and we don't care anymore, which is a very Kings thing to do. So, like, any other team, I'd question that. Right? Like, there's something going on in the background that I don't want to be a part of. But with the Kings, okay, like I will take them up on that deal. I doubt it, though. I'm sure something happened with agent negotiations in the background to get his name tossed in with Malik Monk as the just hot potato that they want to get rid of. I don't really believe it.
My it might be like Golden State's kind of like, if we have to trade Kuminga to you, like that's a guy we want. And so it's not even much like shaking loose as Golden State being like, no, like this is a guy we think is good. And it's like him or Keon Ellis like have to be in this deal, and that could be what's holding things up, right?
I could see that. Yeah, that's actually probably it. Honestly, not. Devin Carter is a very Golden State player.
Yeah,
to me. So yeah, I could definitely see that. All right, let's close it out on this one here. This is actually a question we got a very long time ago, and it was right when the offseason started. So we've not brought it up because this is from Sports and All 2. So shout out to Sports and All 2 for asking us this like right after the Knicks series. But what are your expectations for next season? Now that we've had the offseason mostly play out, we know where the roster's at. We've seen what some of the other teams in the East have done. Where do you see this shaking out for Detroit?
So my expectations going into next season are that the Pistons should progress from where they ended last season and win a playoff series. Like part of that is being in a playoff series, so performing well enough in the regular season to put yourself in the playoffs and out of the play-in. It'd be easier to win a playoff series if you had home court. So perhaps like shooting for a top 4 seed in order to ensure home court in at least the first round of the playoffs. But yeah, I think a reasonable expectation for the team to have next year is to win a playoff series, regardless of like where you finish in the conference. So yeah, I would start there. And then like as a bought as like a basement expectation. It's like stay out of the play-in, right? You don't regress. You proved last year that you were better than the teams in the play-in. You proved last year that you were capable of like being like a 40+ win team. Like continue down that path. Continue to be a really solid regular season team. Don't get sucked into the play-in where 2 bad nights and then all of a sudden like you're going home. So those would be my expectations going into the next season. And that's like, granting like, everyone stays healthy, nothing happens to Cade, like nothing happens to Duren. Duren sneakily really important for this team. In terms of like if he got injured, like all of a sudden it's a lot more Paul Reed than I think we're expecting or wanting to subject ourselves to on a like game by game basis. But yeah, so like those would be like what I would expect going into next season. I think is that fair, Wes? Like,
so like I think it I want to say it's fair, and then I'm also a little nervous about it because like if you bring up injury luck. What happens in Philadelphia? Like, what if Embiid's healthy most of the year, right? That's a team that's going to be much better than they were last year. I think Atlanta did a lot of really fun things this offseason. I love their just setup, right? Their 10-man rotation that they could throw out there is a really good mix around Trae Young. So I think they got a lot better. And like the Pistons can't seem to figure out the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm just every year until probably Giannis retires, I'm just nervous about a tiebreaker scenario there with the Bucks. And you assume the Magic, if they're healthy as well, they're going to jump up. Like, is it possible? This is what I'm building up to. Is it possible the Pistons win 2 more games than they did last season, right? So they take a step forward in their record, but they're the 7th seed. They got jumped by Philly, way overperforming, the Hawks being up at 47, 48, and the Bucks being right in that same range.
That's possible. That relies on a lot of injury stuff that I don't feel comfortable projecting. What I'll say about Philly is like, yeah, if Embiid is healthy, like yes, that team is like kind of is like very much like a good problem, right? That's a lot of small. Detroit. That's a lot of small
bad
guards.
Problem for Detroit.
Yeah, like Maxey, small guard, Edgecombe, slightly undersized guard, can't play point. Carter or Jared McCain, small guard, good small guard. Then it's like, you're relying on Paul George and Joel Embiid to stay healthy. Kelly Oubre, he regressed a little bit last year. You're hoping that slide like doesn't continue. They lost Yabusele to the Knicks for not that much. And like contract wise, like he didn't get paid that much. And they replaced him with somebody who I'm not like remembering who right now, but it wasn't somebody like overly impressive, right? To be fair, like they lost a lot last year because they shut everybody down, right? Like they could have easily been a play-in team if they continued to play Maxey and if McCain like hadn't gotten hurt. But like they were playing like they were playing dudes I hadn't heard of in a very long time at the end of last season. It's like they were trying to keep that pick and it worked out for them. They got BJ Edgecombe. But yeah, I find it difficult to project the Sixers being like above the Pistons, even if you promised me, you pinky swore like Joel Embiid played 65 games, just because the rest of the team doesn't seem as like well supported around him.
Michael Dompier says Philly has Grimes too. Not yet. He's around, but he's not signed. So I mean, you assume, but don't know.
Again, like that's a lot of dudes who want the ball.
Yes, it is. And also, I mean, Grimes is good size for a 2, but you're probably playing him more at the 3 with where their roster is right now, where he's now undersized, to your point.
Yeah. So I forgot about Grimes. That's a good call. He was too good. He was playing too well. Right. They had to shut him
down. I'm with you on every word that you said. They just scare me anyway. Like if you could, the fact that like you said, if you could get Embiid for 50 to 60 games, that team looks a lot different. McCain probably taking a step forward. Maxey all-star type player. I mean, Podcast P is going to do what he does. I don't know what's going to happen there with that one, but like, and I don't love him playing the 4 where he's probably going to. They missed Tobias Harris, and I think that's justifiable at this point. But there's just a lot of talent there with a borderline MVP candidate and McCain really overperforming. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's for certain. I'm just a little bit worried that it happens anyway, and we're all just surprised. I don't know. What about the Hawks, though? Like, are you as high on them as I am right now?
So a lot of that depends on Porzingis, and that's like another injury thing. But I do really like the roster they put together around Trae Young. And it's not even so much Porzingis as it is like if Porzingis doesn't play, then you're starting a Okongwu, which is fine. But then who backs up a Okongwu? Like that becomes kind of an open question. The team, I don't know if Milwaukee's going to be good, but they do have Giannis, and they do have a lot of young guards who remain like interesting to me in Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. and Gary Trent, who's like no longer young, but like still pretty good. It's like I can see a Giannis revenge tour where they just give him the keys. Like he goes point Giannis again. You surround him with shooting, and all of a sudden he's like putting up MVP worthy numbers, and the Bucks are like a 50-win team, partially because like the Bucks are really good, and partially because again the rest of the East isn't depleted around them. So I could see Milwaukee.
Miles Turner supporting that too. Like, that's scary to try and score against in the paint.
Yeah. I can see the Bucks fulfilling the role of the Sixers, like in your scenario.
I would put much higher odds on the Bucks usurping the Pistons than the Sixers. Though there's the Kyle Kuzma of it all, which I really don't enjoy for the Milwaukee Bucks, and makes me think that maybe it's all not going to go that direction. But until the Pistons can win a season series against Milwaukee, I'm just going to continue. Because if there's a tiebreaker, I'm handing it to Milwaukee. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, a 4-5 playoff matchup with Milwaukee is like my nightmare.
Oh, right. It was my nightmare last year too.
Yeah,
I would have rather had the Pacers. They made the finals.
Exactly. It's just the Pistons have never found anyone even like remotely capable of playing solid defense against Giannis. Like Stu does an okay job, but like
when he doesn't tackle him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened like 3 times, so I think we can say that
Giannis remains a problem, and so that would make it a lot more difficult than I'd like it to be for the Pistons to win that first round series and fulfill the expectations we set out for them this season.
Yeah. All right. Last question, since we were just talking about Giannis. I've got this inkling that Asar Thompson is a fun wild card guy to throw on him and just try to pester him for 94 feet and see what happens. Any other shot that someone else on the roster besides him would be able to slow him down that's not Isaiah Stewart?
I mean, like, this might be a case where like this is Ron Holland's like baptism by fire. It's like, hey man, like go out there and just like do everything you can to slow this guy down, like attack this guy's dribble. Like if he spins, like we got your back, we'll collapse, like we have help, and we'll figure it out from there. But just like slow him down, please. Right? That'd be the other, I think, alternative. That'd be the other thing you would have to consider. But I really like Asar. I love Asar's defensive prowess. I think he's much better on guards and ball handlers than he is on bigs. They put him on Evan Mobley at times last year, and like that was fine, but like I didn't love that matchup. You can
push Evan Mobley around. That's why it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, just point blank, that is why it worked.
Yeah. Giannis, too big, too strong. Trying to think of like other like even against like a Minnesota, right? Like you're gonna put a Asar on like Julius Randle, like that's not really where you want to be. It's like you want Asar hounding primary ball handlers and making their lives miserable. Part of what makes Jalen Brunson so good is that he he was up against such an elite defensive player in Asar Thompson
Mhm.
and still performing at a very high level. And like you got to give Brunson a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if Ron Holland can start doing some of that defensive stuff, like taking a Julius Randle and not getting buried under the hoop, taking Giannis and it not having the same exact thing happen, that would be really big for if you want those two to be your future forward combination. That would go a long way to that. The only thing I'd add is that this sort of matchup has been a hole, I think, has been on the Pistons roster for a while now. Not like a regular rotation hole, but just a guy who is maybe 6'11", 7 feet tall, heavy, that you could throw 6 fouls at a guy like Joel Embiid or Giannis to try to get them out of the rhythm. You know, the old Shaquille O'Neal defensive strategy, just like go out there, be physical, hack them, and you're only going to play 15 minutes, but that's 15 minutes of hell for the other player. They've got no one for that.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Duren's 6'10", Paul Reed is Paul Reed. Like there's no one that you can just say, you know what, go, you have 6 fouls, go use them. Let's see what happens. And I would like them to eventually add that if they're going to start making deep runs.
I think that's fair. We saw Tony Bradley play major minutes in the finals this year.
Yeah.
Right? Like those guys always have.
It wasn't the worst. It wasn't great. Wasn't the worst.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank you for joining, Laz, and for the unexpected elevation here to co-host and instead of Blake Silverman, who hopefully his little guy is feeling a little bit better by the end of this, or at least made it through this podcast period without another vomiting incident. So hopefully he's all good there. Go ahead, make sure everyone knows where they can find all your work. And thank you again, man. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, Wes, for having me. I really appreciate it. You can always reach out to me, and I'll be happy to join you guys. And I'll be excited to talk to Blake when his little guy feels better. But yeah, it's funny too because like it's Detroit Bad Boys. Everybody already knows me, right? This is my home. But you can find me on Twitter at Laz Chance. That's at LazChance. You can find me just like lurking still on Detroit Bad Boys. I comment a lot less than I used to, but I still lurk. I still see you guys. I still love all the charts Cross-Eyed puts up. That's where I'll be. And you can find me at a bunch more Pistons games this season if everything works out right. So if you see me at the games, say what's up.
All right. So no one used it for this show, but we do, just as a reminder, we have that phone line. So if you guys want to call, leave a voicemail, actually hear your voice on the show, we play those when they come in. Go ahead and do that. That is 313-355-2717. Just try to keep them short. Don't ramble for like 3 minutes. We will listen to those. That's my promise to you. Like if you go on a 5-minute rant, we'll listen to it. We just won't play it on the show, but we'll appreciate your effort. Other than that, special thank you to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for the great questions, great talking points this evening. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you guys.